willing to cooperate among universities and cooperate for best future and for best research. Again, thanks, and I'm very happy to lead the invite Juris Grants to have his welcome speech. Thanks a lot.
Professor Grants, you have unmute yourself. Thank you.
Sorry.
You're welcome.
Federico, Schena, thank you very much for introduction words. And hello all our friends, and thank you for to join us, more colleagues in other countries. And I remember directly last year in January, in the end of January, with Christoph Anya from Poland, we visited Verona University and then sit around the table with Federico, Alina, and we talk about the next summer school in September this year. But unfortunately, it's not impossible to organize. And therefore, thank you very much, Federico and Alina, for this new kind of summer school during few hours. And then thank you for possibility. We have possibility to see each other and then discuss during this, I say, crazy time, very difficult time. Just I come back 2010, and I try to show, and 11 years ago we organized this first outdoor sports, recreation and education summer school, and we came together 2 countries, 3 universities. It's Latvian Academy of Sport University, Pilsudski University of Physical Education in Warsaw, and State College Computer Science and Business Administration University in Lomža. And from this time we started this summer school framework. I think during these 11 years we did a lot of good things. We published also common publications, and also we published this book on behalf of 5 years of our summer schools. But I would like to say, I hope that we will meet next September in Latvia. You are very welcome to participate in next summer school. And it's my introduction words. Thank you that you find the time to participate in this virtual workshop. And I think it will be very nice to hear your experience, how we are manage our life during this COVID crazy time. Yeah, thank you and good luck in conference. Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Grants from Latvian Academy of Sport Education for the presentation. And I would like to invite everybody to use the section of questions and answers below the screen. So after the presentations of all of the speakers, invited speakers, you during round table meeting, we will discuss about and we will answer for the most interesting questions. Thank you. So please use always only the section questions and answers.
Alina, just a moment, just
yes.
a word. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to say thanks to all the speakers, and a special thanks to Alina Klonova and Sara Bigardi that make the great effort for the organization of this meeting. So just to say just the few words that I want to add, because is very important to underline that if you are able to organize this is because someone has worked a lot. So I will ask Alina lead the first part of this webinar, introducing our speakers, and then we will, myself and Juris Grants will retake the organization and the chair of the roundtable. Please, Alina, thanks.
Thank you. It's an honor for me to present the invited speakers, and the first invited speaker who will present the situation is Professor Valentina Bino from University of Verona with the speech "Enjoyment in Safety: Adjustments of Physical Activity, Games to COVID Rules." Please, I give the floor for Valentina.
Okay. Thank you, Alina. Okay. Good afternoon. With this short speech, I would like to explain that adjustments that motor games had to go through because of COVID-19. In Italy, a succession of amendments and ministerial decrees have issued rules to safeguard the population. In this scenario, physical activity has suffered important losses due to the fact the gathering to the sports would have presented the same risks as gathering at the school does. In addition to this, severe limitations to sports that involve physical contact and high cardiorespiratory effort were made. Scientific evidence has shown that closed environments encourage the spreading of the virus and have made it necessary to ventilate them 6 times per hour, once every 15 minutes. In this context, it became evident that physical activity must be adapted and reformulated. What is COVID taking away from children's development? An optimal development. Indeed, placing children in enriched environments that maximize the experience of quality activity during early childhood could result in optimal development. Physical activity is one of the meaningful activities that have been coupled with the concept of enrichment. The relation between physical activity and cognitive function in children is receiving considerable attention. The utility of physical activity is crucial. It is important to find out which collective physical activity characteristics are best suited to stimulate specific cognitive executive functions and fundamental movement skills in children. So with which physical activity and which game? Physical activity games train children's motor skills, cognitive skills, and life skills. Deliberate play helps children to develop problem-solving skills thanks to the variability of practices. In consideration of this, I wondered, can physical activity games be practiced in small groups? Yes, it can. It is possible to play collective games with school-aged children. How? Can the same games also be played in a natural environment, or do they need to be played exclusively indoors? Games can be divided into groups, such as performance games, where the rule is intrinsic to the game. They arise from the pressure of putting oneself to the test, and their goal is the performance in itself, or learning a task. Collective games, which are games characterized by flexibility and positive enjoyment, also known as deliberate play. An example of this type of games is called the active neuron. Each player runs with a ball in hand and tries to tag the other children while avoiding to get touched at the same time. Once tagged, they must squat down and may pop up to resume play only when someone else tags their tagger, which should force them to which careful the person who tagged them. So this is an example of a motor game played collectively, develops the motor aspect thanks to the action of running and throwing, the cognitive aspect thanks to the need of paying attention to the game, and the social affective aspects as it is carried out in a group. It involves social dynamics among players. Other group of games are team play, in which the action of the players add up to one another. There is no direct interaction between players, but they are all part of a team. Okay. Okay. Team games. The team games includes another group of games where players' actions are interconnected and the players organize themselves together to create a network or form a wall. These games can be adapted to fit the rules imposed by COVID regulation by using an object to touch the players instead of their bare hands. For example, in tag type games or games in which you have to touch a player or to catch them, games that children love very much, we can replace the action of touching the player with catching them by throwing a ball at them instead, as direct contact among children is not currently allowed. Each player will hold a tennis ball or similar object and can use it to tag the opponent instead of touching them. Thus, in addition to maintaining the dynamics and function of the game, we work on the action of launching and therefore on an important fundamental motor skills. Team games that involve using a transitional tool, such as tennis ball, or are slower, as throwing and dodging is slower than touching. Yet, in this way, children are more attentive and more focused on the purpose of the game and to the precision of movements. The game's nature doesn't get twisted. On the contrary, thanks they require controlling an object and launching it, are added to locomotor skills like running or jumping. This means working on the fundamental motor skills. Exercising and developing fundamental motor skills is important, as fundamental motor skills are not learned naturally as a result of age of maturation. They need to be developed and exercised. In this regard, I would like to report this recent study, which has shown that motor activities with a focus on learning fundamental motor skills and vigorous physical activity inspire greater participation in outdoor in preschool children. In this study, 4 different groups that had to perform the same time of activity were analyzed in an outdoor setting. As you can see from the graphics, the control group performed worse than groups followed by instructors. A substantial body of research highlights how structured instruction and feedback are required to ensure that essential movement skills. It is important that the quality early physical experiences delivered in an appropriate manner are necessary to ensure the optimal development of essential movement skills. Today, we are required to follow the new ministerial decrees on outdoor education to ensure children and adolescents' rights to socialize and play. But which play? Deliberate play is often misunderstood because it suggests that the children play without appropriate feedback or instruction. But children need to be supported, guided, and encouraged. Further research is necessary to compare spontaneous play with structured games. The restriction to games applied by COVID regulations have surprisingly resulted in a successful outcome, as they have forced children to develop additional problem-solving skills, promote social dynamics, and develop fundamental motor skills. These games can also be played outdoors. Physical activity games intervention consists of a planned movement, activities that are developmentally and instructionally appropriate. So, as you can see, playing during COVID-19 is still possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Valentina Bino, for your interesting speech. And the next invited speaker is Associated Professor Kalvis Ciekurs from Latvian Academy of Sport Education, Head of Skiing Department. And you are welcome with the speech, Nordic Walking and Orienting as Recreational Activities on Health Promotion in Latvia, COVID-19 in the Shadow. You're welcome, Kalvis.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Alina. I hope so. The presentation is completely, all of us see the presentation. Yes? I hope so. Everyone see the presentation? Yep.
Yes,
That's
okay.
Great. That's great. That's great. Okay, my topic, we will work together with our team, our summer school team, and we are try to show what's happened in Latvia, what's happened in COVID-19 in the shadow in whole world, and we are discussing about Nordic walking orienteering, but I think we can discuss about all sport activities outdoor basically. What is a COVID? We need to know what is that. It's one of the type of virus, and this is a little bit similar coronavirus SARS, but it's a little bit different right now, and this virus will stop a lot of people lives, and how we feel. The symptoms is also it's all the time. It's crazy different. It's not the same each of one. It's maybe we can do some snows, there is some similar temperature or something like that, but there's all the time it's each of the people feel different in different way this COVID, and how we know there is mutations is more than 300, and it's horrible what's happened. How we can stop the COVID? We can wash the hands. It's approximately 20 to 40 seconds, and we can wear in face masks, and we can use it one-time mask. We can use it for many times. We can wash these masks and so on. On the basic one, what specialist says, we need to keep the distance. It's so important to all the time keep the distance, and because it's approximately 1.5 meters, 2 meters is this this is a distance what is more or less safe. And then how COVID go inside in the nose? It's this is the craziest thing. It's this COVID small things go inside in the nose, and this all things goes near on this receptors, and this all the time hits a little bit basically he's trying all the time to go inside in this nerves, and after that, if the COVID go in the nerves, then is a big basically it's a big problems. And it's possible to destroy the COVID can destroy the brain, the spinal cord, the peripheral nerve system, and this is one of the craziest thing what's happened in after the COVID, and that is one of the thing what medical staff speak. One we know it's destroy cardiorespiratory system, but the hardest thing it's what's happened. It's the COVID can destroy the central nervous systems and brain and spinal cord and so on. This is a crazy. And this is a map of Latvia. How we can check what's happened in each of villages, each of cities. Where is the craziest places? And we saw there is a red color in the hardest places is in near Onderīga and Kruspils and Daugavpils. This is the places where we see COVID deepest places, where is hardest places for the COVID. But it's, you see in there we have Nīcas near in the Baltic Sea. It's a small region. Nīca, there is nobody's at the moment is ill of the COVID. This is interesting. And a little bit statistic of last few months, what's happened in Latvia, and we saw there is a confirmed illness. It's all the days is it's yesterday. It's a 10th December. I'm not fixed this today. This numbers, but this is last day. How you saw there is all the time the pillars go in up, and that is horrible for the medical staff. And in today I will fix the last information about the confirmed people. It's more than 24,000. Death is 319, and recover is less than 2,000. But how we discuss with the medical staffs, I think it's this confirmed illness is maybe more than 3 times, more than 5 times more. I think that it's a real number of Latvia, but I think it's the same. It's of each country. In Nordic walking activities, where we are looking for some activities in springtime, we all know when in Latvia we have the first moment when we stay at home and working from home, and there was I think for each of country was a crazy situation, and a lot of people I will discuss today with some guy from Finland. I have a lecture, and he says the same. In springtime, all of people go around, go in the forest, go in somewhere in the nature, and do some physical activities in nature. Because in all activities, what we do inside in room, in hall, there was all of them was closed and stopped, and we can do only activities outside. And Nordic walking is the same. A lot of people in Latvia practice Nordic walking alone, and some of people try to practice Nordic walking in the small groups from 3 to 10 people, because in nowadays we have possibilities to do some activities 10 people, and one of them is no plus one is trainer. Exactly, it's 11 people can participate training session in a place. Also, we need to keep a distance, not shorter than 2 meters, and it's a way how we can practice all activities. And Nordic walking is the same. We can practice all time the Nordic walking in the forest, in beautiful when we see beautiful landscape in the beach or something like that. It's a wonderful way how to relax, how to recover after the working day in the computer. And orienteering activities more or less is the same. We don't have possibilities to do some competitions. We can possibilities to do some only training sessions, and it's only we can do some national league competitions only in high level in top, but for the normal athletes who will do some sport only for himself, or only for a nice time, for like a recreation, that people can use only training session. And orienteering athletes do training sessions all the time, because the orienteering competitors all the time run alone, and there is no pairs, there is no teams, there is no any special groups. There is only you can take electro special device. It's a Sportident or Emit. You can take that one, and you can go in the forest, take the compass, map, and legend, and then you can find a lot of beautiful places. One you can see in the Baltic Sea, in the forest, and this is a nice to hear, to feel forest, feel nature, to run, to participate training session, and then you can possibilities to check another friend's results, and then you can compare these results. And this is not competition, this is training session, but it's like a competition, because there is a possibilities to run one by one, and there is no contacts in the distance. It's wonderful. In outdoor sport activities regulation in Latvia, also, how I say, we need to keep a distance each other and 2 meters. We can stay in one group in 10 athletes, and also plus can coach participate this training session. There is no competitions, no other sport events, only in high league or highest level. There must be some competitions. Also, before training, you need to disinfect hands before and after this training session. Only you can don't use the face masks if you are in training process, but if you are outside of training process, then you need to take a masks. And also in athletes and coach, if wanted to participate some training session in indoor, then you can do one by one only. And also you need to keep a distance 2 meters. That's it's a basic rules what we need to know in when we want to do some sport activities in Latvia. in summary, I can say it's this situation in medical care in Latvia is it's a really difficult situation because it's not in country emergency situation, but it's also in medical emergency situation. From yesterday in clock 4 o'clock, and nowadays it's the medical staff try to understand how to calculate, how to manage the all things in Latvia right now, and we need to also follow on the national regulation, and we need to all the time thinking about the hygiene. We need to clean clean and wash the hands, and also we need to take some how my father says, it's always it's a good to take some cognac or whiskey and clean the throat as well. It's a way also. A little bit, maybe some virus will be completely dead, but I'm not sure about this coronavirus. And however, stay safe and be healthy. Thank you for your attention, and I hope so. Next year we will meet each other in summer school in real life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kalvi, for your interesting presentation about Nordic walking and orienteering. And I'm glad to present next speech the colleagues from Poland, Veronika Gratam, Anna Bodaszinska, and Krzysztof Pić. I will present one by one a little bit. So Professor Anna Bodaszinska is leading senior lectures at the Józef Podolski University of Physical Education in Warsaw, Biała Podlaska branch. Deputy Dean for the Development of Faculty of Physical Education and Health in Biała Podlaska. Her research interests concentrate on issues related to preparation of athletes to participate in sport, the ethics of sport, and issues related to Olympism. So then, Professor Krzysztof Pić, he leads senior lecturer and researcher at the Department of Sport of all of the Józef Podolski University of Physical Education in Warsaw, also Biała Podlaska branch. Scientific interests, physical activity within the family, creating models of physical activity with the family, traditional games and plays. And master degree, Veronika Gratam, lecturer and researcher of the Department of Sport of all of the Józef Podolski University of Physical Education in Warsaw, also Biała Podlaska branch. She is also a somatic movement educator registered with the International Somatic Movement Education and Therapy Association. And the speech topic is popularization of outdoor physical activity during COVID-19 times by students of Academy of Physical Education in Biała Podlaska. You're welcome. You can start. Thank you.
Alina, one moment. I would like to say thank you to your invitation to this conference. This is a pleasure for us to take part in this conference. I hope that this will be good. This will be the first step for our future cooperation. On the beginning, I would like to give you a few information about the program promotion physical activity in our city and in our academy. The first program, this is family physical activity. This is very important in this moment because the children spend a lot of time at home with their parents, And during our family Olympics games, our students prepare about 200 different exercises. This is not competitions, but this is the most important is only take part in this event, but the children can play with their parents. The next is exercises for a family. We invited the parents with their children to our sport hall. Sometime we organize this event outside, and the parents play with their children. The children are from the kindergarten, and this is first program. The next, this is European Festival traditional games and play. When we started organize summer school in Verona 2010, traditional games and plays, this was the first subject this summer school. We organized, professors and students, we organized excursion by bike, and we visited tutors and asked elder people about traditional games and plays. During last summer school in Biała Podlaska, we invited 7 universities from different countries, and the professor and student come to Biała Podlaska, and during this festival, traditional games and plays, they present games and play from different countries. About 1,000 people, parents, grandparents with the children took part in this event. We can't organize now this event, but we start with another program, and now Veronica gives you more information about what we do now.
Thank you, Krzysztof. So yes, this slide shows our midterm student internships. Before the pandemic, during the academic year, the second year students conducted these internships in schools, working with year 1 and 2. So more or less the children were 7, 8 years old. As part of these internships, the students had to prepare sets of exercises for school children. This had to be, of course, approved by the supervisor, who is always appointed by our university. And during the lessons, class teachers were, of course, also always present. The lessons for children also introduced elements from traditional games and play, which Krzysztof was talking about. During COVID, on the other hand, students work in a little bit different way now. They prepare similar sets of exercises, but they do it to be done online, and then they send them to the school. The school then puts it in their system. It's like a sort of like online journal. It's called Librus. And then the children and their parents can access this, and they can perform these tasks at home in their own time. Our academic teachers also do their work. They prepare films. The film then show various games, and then this is posted to our Facebook page. And these films contain things like ideas for playing in the garden, as you can see here, other outdoor games, which children can do together with their parents. These are things like, for example, games using elastic band, which is a very, very traditional Polish game, which even I played as a little girl. It's things like this, but also using natural materials like pebbles, hopscotch, which you can see here, or similar games to hopscotch and other similar games. Nordic walking is also a big part of these outdoor activities. And of course, before the pandemic, the Nordic walking groups were organized. Krzysztof organized those groups. They were organized by the university with older people from what's called in Poland the third age university. And before the pandemic, of course, they were organized in bigger groups. But of course, now, similar to previous presentations, those groups need to be smaller, but they are still happening. The groups meet on Saturdays. The groups now are around 3 to 5 people, of course, maintaining all the hygienic regulations, but they're still meeting, and it's an important part of these outdoor activities. This is something that you can see now, which is, I think, more and more popular, not only in Poland, but probably all around the world, winter swimming, which just as an interesting fact, I can tell you that literally translating from Polish, we call it walrus swimming. So this is just how we call winter swimming. And this is conducted as part of the course of our university course in physical education and in uniformed services. And this activity we've been doing, it's been happening for several years now, this year also. And it's a very, very popular activity amongst the students, but also amongst general population. Just people generally quite enjoy engaging in this sort of activity. And also as an interesting thing, in December, there are even some competitions organized in cold water swimming, winter swimming. So that's that. And here also you can see other outdoor activities that are happening around Biała Podlaska region, and it's organized by this organization called TKKF Schena, which is an organization promoting physical activity in the local community, and this is where our university's graduates operate and conduct outdoor activities during COVID times. And they just conduct basically bicycle trips around the region, visiting some nice natural places, also enjoying being outside, being in nature. So bicycle trips around the local region. And this is again, you can see here a little bit more of Nordic walking, which is also very popular in Poland. The same organization that I was just talking about also organizes classes for various age groups. Nordic walking is very popular, as I said, not only in Biała Podlaska here, but in the whole of Poland. People engage in this activity more and more. We started with more older people taking part in Nordic walking, but recently more and more younger people have been joining in. So not only grandparents, but also their children and their grandchildren. So younger and younger people also start to participate in these Nordic walking activities outdoors. And these sort of classes are held either in the city. Here you can see on the left, it's Biała Podlaska City Park, but often also they go for trips and excursions. So for example, they go to the Bug River, which is very beautiful and a quite popular place And those classes, yeah, are conducted by our graduates. Thank you very much. I just give it back to Krzysztof.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul and colleagues. Are you finished? Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your interesting presentation about popularization of outdoor activities in your university. And I'm glad to present next invited speaker is Cassandra Sponberg from Swedish School of Sport and Health Sciences from Sweden. Cassandra Sponberg is a qualified health educator with a Bachelor of Science in Sport from the Swedish School, and primary working for Stockholm's community with physical activity on prescription and with project at the Swedish School of Sport and Health Sciences. You're welcome, Cassandra, with your speech. The name of the speech is a health coach experiences due to COVID-19 and its effect on individuals' physical activity. You're welcome.
Yes. Hi, thank you so much. I'm very glad to be here. My colleague asked me if I could participate in his matter. His name is Rudy, and I was very glad to get this opportunity. I hope you see my presentation, and I am going to talk about my experience of working with individuals to increase their physical activity and reduce sedentary behavior as an health educator. And I'm going to talk about my experience of working with individuals with physical activity on prescription and the similarities that these individuals are facing that most part of the population now experience due to COVID-19. My job as a health educator is to support individuals to increase their physical activity and maintain physical active. The main part is about finding individualized solutions by talking to the individual towards individualized goals and to do follow-ups. And this is some of my subjects that I'm going to incorporate in my speech. So the most part of the population has a variation in the movement patterns during a typical day. That involves sedentary behavior and physical activity on low intensity, but can also have parts of exercise and, of course, sleep. For those who have a physical active work or participating in sports may also have physical activity on moderate or high intensity during parts of the day. With the recommendations due to COVID-19 in Sweden, working from home and cancelled activities have surely affected the way of a normal day for a typical Swede. The leisure time sport activities has been affected by the recommendations, and those two combined have a negative impact on our physical activity and our health. So how can we make it easier for ourselves and for others to adjust instead of canceling our physical activity? And can we learn to appreciate outdoor environment more and what is needed for that to happen? In Sweden, there are national recommendations regarding COVID-19 and fewer rules. The regions in Sweden have local general advices based on the spread of infection. Many advices are the same across the country, but these are some recommendations from Stockholm region. Refrain from staying in indoor environments such as shop and shopping centers, museum, libraries, bathhouses, and gym. It's, of course, allowed to do necessary visits to grocery stores and pharmacies, but municipal bathhouses and gym are closed, but private actors are open, and you are allowed to go there but you have to, like some of you have already said, keep distance and wash your hands. But most of the gyms are open. We refrain to participating, for example, meetings and concerts and sports training and matches and competition. However, this does not apply for those children or younger people that are 15 years old or younger. And we should, if it's possible, avoid of having physical contact with other people than those we live with. So, like I said, the majority of people, Swedish population have a variety of movement during the day, but there are very few that are reaching the national goals and recommendation of 150 minutes of physical activity on moderate or high intensity per week. A sedentary lifestyle is a major problem in Sweden that also reduces the time of active physical activity on low intensity. For those who have the opportunity to work from home are now encouraged to do so, which certainly affects everyday exercise negatively. There is also a very awareness of the spread of infection, which means that many who normally train at the gym or participate in indoor activities that are still open choose not to. There are some very good initiatives in Sweden, like live streamed home workouts on television. And the gym that are open are trying to maintain their classes, but are moving outside and try to keep social distancing. So there are many good examples of what is made also, but I think most of the population finding it harder now to be physical active, and that's concerning. So in addition to those who appreciate exercising outdoors, this arena outdoor environment can attract those with limited finances, for those who exercise from or to work, or for those who do not have access to training facilities. For individuals who want to be physical active on their own, walking, running, Nordic walking, and outdoor gyms are examples of common exercises in Sweden. Walking is an activity with a low threshold, and my experience is that many Swedes have walking as their primary form of exercise. A challenge regarding physical activity in the outdoor environments is the Swedish weather, especially during the winter month. Although we should be used to this weather, the excuses by the Swedish people are often very, very common. Like it's cold, it's windy, it's slippery, it's wet. And there's even a saying for this in Sweden, says that there are no bad weather, it's only bad clothes. But this does not talk that well to so many people. But anyway, it's fun because Swedes are very likely to talk about the weather if you talk to them, always. Another thing that it's hard for Swedes to maintain physical activity outdoors, even though you like it or not, is that it's very, very dark. This last month, it has been 0 sun hours in Sweden, in the most part of the Sweden. And the light it's only light about 6 hours a day. And that increases the insecurity of people wanting to get out because of the darkness. And that's, of course, an issue. So how can we make it easier for ourselves and others to adjust instead of canceling our physical activity? In my work with physical activity on prescription, I meet individuals daily that have a desire to increase their physical activity without knowing how, and sometimes not even why. A physical activity on prescription can be prescribed in preventive purpose, but also is most common in treatment of cardiovascular diseases, metabolic diseases, and mental illness, to mention a few. Many Swedes know the correlation between physical activity and health, but there is a very narrow picture of how, and perhaps above all, what counts as physical activity or exercise. A study has shown that the most common reasons for not being physical active among Swedes are lack of time, I cannot afford it, and I am not the sporty type. But I'm now going to talk on a more positive note. Despite all these perceived obstacles, there is a will to be healthy, and my experience is that a little encouragement comes a long way. I am going to talk about some factors that I have found worked well with individuals who want to increase their physical activity. Knowledge. You have to have the knowledge about what physical activity can do for you so that you can make a choice to increase your physical activity. My experience is that a lot of Swedes has the knowledge, but that does not seem to be the only one. But I think that's just the first step. You have to know what it has for effects on your physical and mental health. But the second part may be even more important. It's about finding your own why. If we take an example, a tennis player that now is not allowed to play tennis anymore, that person now risks to lose 2 hours of exercise a week. And for that person to find how she or him can replace that activity with perhaps an outdoor activity, she needs to understand why she likes to play tennis. And if we can come to a solution or find reasons to what tennis does for her, maybe she can find that I sleep better, I tend to be more awakened during the day, and I take the stairs now instead of taking the elevator because my condition is better. If we can encourage people to see what physical activity does for the individual, that can be an easier step to think about opportunities with outdoors activity now that the indoor may be a risk environment for you. So if we can find that motivation, the chances of us or the individuals or the ones who are in a position to decide in a bigger content can increase the motivation to change instead of canceling your activity. And the third step that I have found is very useful is to do follow-ups. In physical activity on prescription, we use follow-up as a main part of the method physical activity on prescription. And we can see that if we have someone that is checking up on us, like a doctor, nurse, health educator, or even a friend or a family member, we are more likely to maintain physical activity. So I recommend people now that I work with to get someone to think about solution with that also can keep you going forward and to see the possibilities and opportunities that you have to find new activities you might like, or perhaps just switch activity during this COVID time. But there is an opportunity to find more and more physical activities that you may not have experienced before, and that's also very positive. And if we take this tennis player, maybe she used to play tennis with her friend, then they of course can do the activity together, but they can also help each other to find solutions, and in the best worlds they go out running together. But to have someone that is cheering on you is a very positive way of helping you stay motivated. So what I would like to say is that if we can find that physical activity, what it does for us, we will find it easier to look at more options and hopefully want to take care of ourselves and adjust instead of canceling our physical activity. The positive about wintertime in Sweden are the opportunities for skiing and ice skating, etc. outdoors. These are activities that are now that many Swedes are looking forward to. And so far there is going to be, the mountains will be open. I don't know whether in English, but you are going to go and ski in the winter time here. So many Swedes look forward to that. So that's very good. I see many Swedes have starting taking their bike instead of the bus and subway to and from work. There has even been people taking photos and filming, because it's a huge increase of people that are using their way to and from work, or even taking a walking on their lunch, even though they're working from home. So there is a movement in Sweden that encourage people to move, and I can see that on the streets where I live. So that's very positive. I do believe that there's a lot more to be done, but I think that the pandemic has opened our eyes for possibilities and to appreciate outdoor environment more. And I think that many Swedes are now exploring the nature in a different way that it has been done, of course, because of the recommendations to hang out outdoors, and because it's what we know in Sweden, a better way to engage with your family member or your friends, or even be physical active outdoors. So I think that has opened up to many more opportunities that I hope will last even after this COVID period that we are in right now. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassandra, for your essential speech and for your experience as a health coach. And the next invited speaker is from Lithuania. There are two professors, Vita Kontentienė and Asta Budaikaitė, and I will present them. Vita Kontentienė is a doctor of social sciences in the Department of Sports, Recreation and Tourism of Klaipėda University, coordinator of physical activities of the project Forever Young 65 plus. And Dr. Asta Budaikaitė is an associate professor of social sciences at the Department of Sports, Recreation and Tourism of Klaipėda's University. And the speech is about Project Forever Young 65 plus. Welcome. You can start your speech. Please put your audio. Unmute yourself. Vita, Asta, do you hear me? Hello? Can you send them? Just 1 minute.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I forgot.
You're welcome.
Turn off my microphone.
Okay.
Hello. I would like to share with you our experience by implementation the project Forever Young 65 plus.
Excuse me, Vita, we can
yes.
have your video also, because it's...
What is...
Yeah, video, camera.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Now it's okay. Yes. I would like to share with you our experience by implementation project Forever Young 65 plus. 3 years ago, we prepared this project and get foundation, and this project now is implemented by Klaipėda University. Project duration 3 years. Project manager is Professor Asta Šarkauskienė, and coordinator of physical activities am I, Vita Kontautienė. The project Forever Young is co-financed by the State Sports Support Fund, which is administered by the Ministry of Education, Science and Sports and the Education Exchange Support Fund. Out of many Lithuanian policies identify healthy lifestyle as an essential component of one's quality of life, the significant role of physical activity is still insufficiently understood. Physical activity of older people in Lithuania is poorly promoted in social and health care systems. Older people lack detailed knowledge about the health benefits of physical activity. The project Forever Young tackles the problem of insufficient physical activity of older people. The target group of the project is members of the senior community of Klaipėda, about 300 participants. The aim of the project is to develop optimal physical activity habits of older people. Project objectives to determine the extent and frequency of physical activity, capacity and health status of older people, to develop and implement a program to promote physical activity of older people, and to determine the physical activity habits of older people and their literacy in the field of physical activity. The first stage of the project is diagnosis. And here you can see project research group, Professor Asta Šarkauskienė, Lector Rolandas Jančiauskas, I, Vita Kontautienė, Dr. Asta Budreikaitė, and Sigita Derkitienė. Research in physical activity, physical fitness, and health of seniors was conducted. Physical activity of the elderly was assessed using the Community Health Activities Model Program for Seniors, Physical Activity Self-Report Schena. 230 questionnaires were distributed. Physical fitness research was conducted by Rolandas Jančiauskas, and we used tests standing up and sitting down on a chair, lifting hands while holding weights, 6 minutes walking test, sitting on a chair and reaching forward, upper body mobility test. The study involved 120 seniors. Research of health condition and well-being by Professor Asta Budreikaitė, 230 questionnaires were distributed. Body composition research invite 120 elderly people in the study, and research of quality of life invited 230 questionnaires in this research. Second stage of the project is the development of physical ability habits, physical activity habits of seniors. The data of the study of physical activity became the basis for the development of a physical activity program for older people developed by Professor Asta Šarkauskienė, which develops literacy in the field of physical activity and physically activity habits. The implementation of the physical activity program creates an opportunity for older people to participate in physical activities free of charge according to their physical capacity and state of health. Systematic participation has raised awareness of the health benefits of physical activity. Attractive physical activities that meet the needs of older people have been proposed. We have planned out a physical activity session promoting the development of physical activity of older people. Duration this activity is 18 months, 150 physical activity session for each group. Duration of one session, 1.5 hours. Physical activities are performed 4 times a week. Monday, strengthening exercises for various muscle group, kinetics, Pilates, breathing, and muscle strengthening exercises. Tuesday, dance elements. Wednesday, forest therapy, increasing aerobic activity, and Thursday, physical activities according to individual needs. Here you can see physical activities managers. It is Broniė Švitrienė, Ilena Bučinskienė, and Asta Turlienė. And now I would like to share with you some moments of participation in this physical activities of seniors. First of activities is exercise. Seniors enjoy these activities very much and participate in every session about 30 or more people when it was possible, of course, till COVID. Second, our activity is forest therapy. It is hiking, and seniors started of activities to know our city, visiting museums, and participating in educational events. We organized hikes along the seaside, forest trails, walked with Nordic sticks, and other. And dance activities. Senior dance different dances styles according to the wishes and preferences of the seniors. Linear dances and country dances. They trying to dance disc at slower pace. At the request of seniors, we taught Lithuanian entertainment dances. What is the benefit of these activities? Participation in the physical activity promotion program creates favorable conditions for the development of learning opportunities for older people, increases their literacy in the field of physical activity, as well as utilizes free service to determine the physical condition by attending physical activity classes that help for healthier habits of older people. The project participants acquire knowledge and abilities to be physically active, have opportunities to learn new skills, thus enabling better adaptation to the modern world and reducing social exclusion. The communication needs of older people to find like-minded people to spend their leisure time while being physically active are met. The Sports Support Foundation has recognized the remote implementation of the project Forever Young as a success story when started Corona period, and from 1st November we stopped these activities implement in sport zal together, and our seniors now have possibility to be active at home. And I would like to share with you this site. It is site of the Sport Support Foundation, and at this period of quarantine, our seniors try to be physically active at home. Now they have this possibility, and the main very important thing that they learned how to use IT, this technology, and find this information on the university site, and they now do this exercises at home. The last step, which start next year, will be the third stage. It is assessment of physical activities of seniors, and we hope that our results will be positive, because our seniors participate in physical activities now, and we hope that literacy of older people and their habits to be physically active will be grown. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your interesting presentation about your project Forever Young. The next speaker is from Lithuania, and the name is Valdemaris Kavaliauskas. He is a master of the sports and individual practice in the health management program. So the topic of his speech is health management and outdoor physical activity in COVID conditions for persons engaged in office mental work, 40 years and more. Thank you very much, and you're welcome for your presentation.
Thanks. Hello one more time. Welcome. Today I speak and help me with my English language, my son Augustas. We speak about health management and outdoor physical activity in COVID conditions for people and yet in office mental work 40 up.
Yes, I would like to ask, can you see the slides?
Yes, it's okay.
Do you see the slides, yes? Can you hear me?
Yes, we see
Okay.
the slides.
Perfect. Okay. So I will start with a little introduction. So health management, physical activity in the times of COVID-19 for people who work long hours in offices. COVID-19 has become a big challenge for people today. Not only do people have to protect themselves from getting infected, but also they have to find ways on how to adapt in self-isolation so that they could maintain a good mental and physical health and not suffer from other diseases. It is no secret that out of 11 main health indicators, the 3 main factors are physical activity, proper and regular nutrition, and stress prevention. They have the greatest impact on our health. Many scientific articles and publications substantiate the positive impact of these factors on our body and its changes. During my long-term work practice, I intuitively created the BK Health Management System. The system is intended for individuals in the medium over 40 risk group with an increasing risk of primary disease factors. Worsening of blood counts, weakening of the skeletal muscle system, autonomic regulation changes, and so on. Constant tension and pressure make the sympathetic nervous system send our body signals about the worsened well-being due to stress with which we can no longer deal with. And to add to all of this, after working 8 to 10 hours of sedentary mental work, our muscle atony sends us neurological signals, and the shortness of breath when we climb upstairs show us the deterioration of functional capacity. What can an individual who gives his all to work, family, and his children do? I see a great potential in this area, and I want to share my real practical experience. How can you reform a bad lifestyle and help yourself and others? So, first of all, we're going to show this a little Okay. So on Discovery Channel, there once was this short show, and this lecturer presented this idea that if we took a red rope and wrapped it around one tree and then extended it for 500 meters and wrapped it around the other tree and placed little white dots on the end of the red line, then the red line would symbolize an era when man had to survive and be physically active and capable, and the little dots on the end of the rope would symbolize the last century when the whole concept of pursuing human physical activity changed. So it's an interesting food for thought. So the primary purpose of movement was always to be able to survive and feed yourself, hunt, defend, and escape. But these days, in the modern society, comfort is now the most important goal. And that causes a lot of hypodynamic disorders, increased stress, decreased adaptability. And all of this increases the primary risks. So these are the 9 primary risks. The first of them is age. In men, it shows over 40. In women, it shows over 50. Family history, smoking, high blood pressure, post at rest, placental body fat, and so on. You can read them yourselves. And
this is a scam from American Sports Medicine College, Korea.
And they created the system which created these 3 risk groups: high risk, moderate risk, and low risk. And people who are sick with like cardiovascular, pulmonary, metabolic diseases, they instantly fall down to the high risk group. And people who have major signs or symptoms of these diseases, like pain, shortness of breath, dizziness, they instantly also fall to the high risk group. And then after that, the determination, last process of the determination is checking the CVD risk factors. And if you have more than 2 factors, and these are the factors, if you're over 40, a man, and you're smoking, you already fall into this group. And you fall into the moderate risk group. And people who have less than 2 risk factors, they are like healthy and are in the low risk group. And practically every person who is over 40, almost everybody falls into the moderate risk group because of the risk factors.
Sorry, Valdemar, sorry for the interruption. We can see only first presentation slide. Could you change for the next one?
Okay, do you see them now? Like this, wait. Can you see them?
Yes, now we see the 6th slide.
Now?
Slide, number 7, yes.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Okay, so we were talking about this
risk groups.
These risk groups, and this is the American College Sports Medicine little system that Valdemaras uses. And all right. And he works with these groups, usually the moderate risk group. And in the last updated recommendation of the ACSM, they have put sedentary lifestyle as a CVD risk factor, which is pretty interesting. And it's a big thing now, especially in COVID times, because a lot of people sit and work from home a lot of the time.
Okay.
Do you see the next slide, or is it still the 7th?
Hello.
still the same.
I don't think it's on presentation mode.
It should be, but we're not sure. Okay, do you see now the 8th slide? We're just gonna do it like this without the full screen, I guess, because I don't know what's happening. So yeah, so we would like to talk about prolonged sitting and insufficient physical activity, the sedentary lifestyle more. So there are a lot of risks and dangers with sitting for long periods of time. After 2 hours of non-stop sitting, good cholesterol drops to about 20%. Blood flow circulation decreases, blood sugar rises, and your metabolism slows by 25% to 50% just after 2 hours of sitting. Dangers of prolonged sitting. So these are a couple of dangers. Some of them include increased risk of diabetes, increased risk of heart disease, flappy abs, tight hips, and so on. It can even increase the risk of colon cancer and breast cancer, and the list goes on and on. Some other dangers are foggy brain, strained neck, sore shoulders and back, and so on. And if you sit for very long and often, exercise may not even compensate the effects of sitting. So it's very important to implement exercises in between long sitting sessions and long work sessions. The main problems when you sit for a long period of time are all connected to the lower part of the body. Some muscle systems and
muscle groups.
Some muscle groups get shorter.
Psoas, adductor.
The back becomes strained.
Sėdmenys atrofuojasi.
And the
gluteus atrophic.
Yes. And the pelvic imbalance can affect the following symptoms. These are some of them. You can read them for yourself. And what should be done with all of this? So the recommendations are you should try to stand up every 30 minutes, work at tables that move, apply active sitting concepts on balls, try talking on the phone while standing. You can avoid elevators and try to climb up the stairs. You should try to go from place to place on foot. Organize standing meetings like the concept of active meetings. Short workouts in workplaces could work too, and you should definitely take advantage of short walks while going to and from work and while going for lunch, for example. So these are the 11 main factors that Valdemaras was talking about. And out of all of the 11 factors, there are 3 main ones. And it's regular physical activity, food you eat, and stress management. And the first one is regular physical activity out of all of them. Where to start? A challenge for all physical activity professionals during the COVID-19 period. So you need a large open space, sporting equipment outside, outdoor clothing, and a mask is really important too. Shoes, outdoor shoes, some mobile training equipment, and some equipment that would ensure the safety of the people you're training, like a thermometer, a pulse oximeter, a disinfectant, and smart watches and heart heart rate monitors. And an optional thing that people would have more fun and enjoy your training sessions more is a speaker and a streaming service.
Hello.
So next, the right start. So first of all, you have to choose the right clothing. It depends on the weather, and it's really important. Then you should ensure the safety of the people you train and measure their temperature from a distance. You should absolutely disinfect your hands every time you do something and give the disinfectant to your trainees so they can do that. You should avoid face-to-face contact, don't do handshakes, and etc. Start physical activity sessions with no more than 2 people at a time and keep a distance between people at least 2 meters. In case of a negative temperature, choose the appropriate methodologies and intensity of physical activities. You can prepare a music playlist on your phone beforehand and prepare physical activity locations and activities, what you will do in one place or another. Like get to know the place you're working in, where the equipment is, and so on. And to work safely, it is always better to have clinical partners. So how does it look in reality? So first of all, the first step is testing and assessment of primary risk factors, or the, as Valdemaras calls it, the annual vehicle inspection. And this is facilitated by clinical partners and well-chosen methodologies. So you can see some pictures from the testing process of people and the documents and such. These are the methodologies of the testing and the system that Valdemaras has created. And after you weigh the risks, then you can finally organize the safe physical activities in the current situation of COVID. So these are some excerpts from Valdemaras training sessions. This is from summer and autumn. They usually start, they sometimes start morning time, sometimes they even are in the evening after work for some people. No. So these are some other pictures. It's really important that everything would be at a fast pace, comfortable for people, easy to do, and easily adaptable. The distance of 2 meters is kept, and it's important to maintain, to like adapt to the temperature and the outside environment. Sometimes you need to start the sessions from a good warm-up. Like today in the morning there was snow, and these are some pictures from Valdemaras session. And there was 10 minutes of aerobics with TRX equipment. And when the weather is like better, ice methodic, he uses ice methodics, and yeah. So thank you a lot for your attention. If you have questions, here is Valdemaras' contact. Sorry for the presentation that the slides didn't work, but I hope it was all right, and thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Valdemaras. Thank you, his son of to the assistant, and it was very interesting presentation. And the next colleague is from Italy, and his name is the Professor Gennaro Boccia from University of Turin. and he is a PhD researcher at the Department of Clinical and Biological Sciences at the University of Turin, Italy. Research interest is in neuromuscular function and physical activity for health. And the topic of the speech is outdoor activity in primary schools, how to adapt the daily mile to physical distancing guidelines. You are welcome, Gennaro.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. So, good afternoon, everybody. Here I'm going to talk about how to adapt the daily mile in this COVID period. And I will, so first of all, I will explain what the daily mile is. Then I will show you some science behind the daily mile. And then I will present some ideas regarding how to adapt the daily mile to physical distancing guidelines. So first of all, the aim of the daily mile is to remove barriers to physical activity in the school settings. I must say that I like very much this sentence because this sentence makes me think about the fact that the school setting, which is the elective setting for educational purposes, is a very valuable setting. But we do know that in terms of physical activity, it may create a lot of barriers to physical activity because of lack of spaces, because of logistic, organization, money, and so on. So the aim of the daily mile is to remove, at least for a small part of the school time, is to remove these barriers. Okay, so let's see what the daily mile is. The daily mile consists in running or jogging for 15 minutes, where children run at their own pace outside the school building. So this means that typically the daily mile is performed outside, so on the fresh air, let's say, and typically it lasts 15 minutes from desk to desk. So this means that the children go out from their classroom and come back 15 minutes later. During this period, they try to run as much as possible, or what they want to run, let's say. But the most important thing here is that the teacher choose when to get out with their children. So this means that this activity is very usable from teachers, and so does not add, let's say, a toss to the workload of teachers, but it should just be seen as a proposal for teachers to do an active break. Okay, to do an active break during the school time. So this means that the daily mile does not replace physical education. The first presenter, Professor Bino, said very clearly that children needs enriched environment and need enriched physical activity proposal. This running does not replace all the stimuli that a physical education class can give to children. This is just running. This is just physical activity, and it should be seen as an active break. Okay, but where the children should run? Basically, you can create a track for running in the playground. In the first example on the left, you can see that there isn't clearly a track. It's just the playground where the children are instructed to run around. But you can also, if you have money, a bit of money, let's say, you can also paint the track in the playground, like in this example, or you can make it even more colorful, like in this example here, or you can also create a real track composed by concrete materials or plastic materials, let's say, where the children can run in safe, let's say. So the first thing that you have to think is about safety. So the track does not have obstacles of any kind. The second thing that you have to think about is that the track should be short. Indeed, for example, in this example, the track lasts is 100 meters long. This means that the children can make a lot of laps. But the important thing is that the teachers should have all the class, all the children on site. So this activity can be performed just by one teacher, because one teacher is able to should be able to look all and to see all the children. The daily mile is quite popular in these days. So it started in UK and now is spread all around Europe and the world. There are more than 10,000 schools that so far are registered in doing the daily mile. And we were the first, let's say, to export the daily mile in Italy. And we started, of course, in Turin and in the neighborhood. And now we have kind of 20, 30 schools that in the neighborhood of Turin actively perform the daily mile. Okay. Now, what is the science behind the Daily Mile? We are part of the research advisory group of the Daily Mile Foundation. We produce some pieces of research. So far, there are kind of 15 papers regarding the effectiveness of the Daily Mile. We produce some of these studies, and I'll show you something. For example, in this study which was led by my colleague Paolo Brustio, we demonstrated that the daily mile is able to improve cardiorespiratory fitness when it's practiced 3 times a week. And this is crucial because if you try to perform it more frequently, 4 or 5 times a week, maybe you don't get great improvement, much greater improvement. But if you try to do it less than 3 times a week, maybe you don't get the supposed benefits. Then they demonstrated that the daily mile make the children more active and less sedentary. And for more active, I mean that it can increase the physical activity at moderate and vigorous intensities. Then they demonstrated in acute that the daily mile can have an effect in terms of mood, attention, and memory of the children. Then the daily mile is considered cost-effective. And again, Paolo Brustio demonstrated that the daily mile is well accepted by teachers. Consider that 85 to 90% of teachers were happy to do the daily mile, and they want to continue to do the daily mile in the subsequent school years. So, of course, these are just preliminary studies. It's not enough, but it's a good start for, I believe. So now let's go to the core of the presentation. So how to adapt the daily mile to physical distancing guidelines. Now I'm going to present 4 ideas that are, let's say, that are good options for class groups or for bubbles. Okay, so small subgroups of class. So the first idea is to make some pit stops. So, for example, imagine that the children are running around the track and they are distanced at least 2 meters from each other. But sometimes the children should stop to take breath. Then they cannot stop in the track. but they should stop 2 meters away from the track so they can rest for a few seconds, for a minute, for example, and then they come back to the track, physical distanced from the others, and then so come back again to the running. So this is just a way to keep the distance when children take breath and rest. The second idea is to create multiple tracks, for example, concentric tracks, like in this example. Basically, the two tracks, the black one and the green one, in this case, are 2 meters away, 2 meters apart. You can create maybe more if you have larger spaces. And this is a simple way to manage the 2 meters distancing from one line to the other. The third idea is to create some spaces that make available, so that create the possibility for children to pass the other children, the slower children that are in front of them. So basically, if children run faster than the one that is in front of him or her, he can take the chance to create to pass him or her using these lines, maybe 10 meters long, which is 2 meters away from the principal track. And so in this way, they can pass each other without making contact between them and so each other, let's say. So I think that you understand this. So this is an easy way to get distancing even when also when passing each other. And the fourth idea is to create multiple routes, like in this case, the blue one and the green one. And these two separate routes, two separate tracks, can be classified, let's say, like maybe a long route and a short route, or for example, a fast route and a slow route, maybe a walk route and a running route. So there are basically 2 or 3 different tracks, which is dependent on how much space you have in the playground. And every children can choose which route to take, and can also, of course, shift from one route to the other. So these were just 4 ideas to adapt the daily mile, but what you have, what it's important to consider is that the daily mile is effective because it's simple, and it is adaptable to the conditions that are present in each school. So just consider those as ideas, as a suggestion, but try to adapt this suggestion to your environment. So I hope that you enjoyed this presentation, these ideas, and this is what I have. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Gennaro. It was very interesting presentation, and okay. I give the floor to you, Professor Grants, please.
Yeah. Okay. Next presenter was Kalvis from Latvia. Yeah, thank you, Kalvis, that this presentation. But anyway, I don't know, we have a different regulation. For example, yesterday, from our government, we received the message that government don't allow to organize practical classes with the students from abroad during the COVID period. But for Latvian students, government to allow to do it. This morning we have meetings with rectors and vice rectors about this question, and we don't satisfied with that. Why? But for example, for Latvian students, here in Latvia, we can organize the practical classes one-to-one or face-to-face. But my question, colleagues from other countries, for example, in Poland, in which, on Sweden or in Italy, in which way you are just working with the students in practical classes? Federico, maybe your experience. Are you doing the practical classes with your students in your university?
Okay, I will try again. Do you hear now or not?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. That's okay. Sorry for before. This is a very important topic. We are doing practical activities in our degrees, maintaining distance and reducing the more active experience so we try to substitute the more active experience, for instance, all the team sport using video, or having a limited number of students working and large number of students that are looking by video, and also staying at home. So we have about one half of the student participant and one half of student at home that can give the pictures of what is the practical experience. In this way, we maintain part of the activities and part of the distancing rule. But in any way, we can maintain at least a part of the practical experience, because it's too much important for sports science. And if you want to know if we have some COVID situation, yes, we have, but in a very, not only in sports science, but in the whole university, we have, but in very, very small number. So we don't have any real great COVID problem inside. It is likely, but we are able to maintain a good rule and also to maintain a good control on the situation.
Okay, thank you.
Juris, I have a question for what is Calvis?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, there are twice. I also Calvis. I see that in the Latvian rule there is a number of 10 athletes that can train together. The question is why 10? What is the meaning and the logic to choose this number? Do you have any? Do the government have any idea, or just they say 10 because it looks a good number? The microphone.
I'm not sure. Yes, I'm not sure about the number, but because it's a 10, but this number is outside, and all the time we need to respect the 2-meter distance.
Yeah.
And if maybe it's probably the numbers, that's the reason, because we have a sport team, maybe football team or basketball team, and maybe these guys will follow on this training session outside, and this is more or less full team. Maybe somebody stay outside at home, and maybe some stay in quarantine, and I think that must be the reason why it's 10 people. I'm not sure the correct number, because I'm not talking with our specialists but this is our government rule, and I will all the time try to focus on this. But I nowadays I saw there is Latvian trainers try to fix this number each of training sessions, and it's a good way. A lot of people go outside. It's wonderful, because it's all the time we are staying on the indoor and do a lot of activities indoor. Nowadays we are go outside, and it's lovely to breathe fresh air, and that is so important for our respiratory system. That is so important nowadays.
Can I ask the question, Christoph, Veronica, and Anna, what about situation in Poland, about the practical classes in your university?
At the moment, we are kind of lucky to be able to conduct all the classes, all the practical classes in person. But of course, again, they are done in smaller groups, so we don't have any huge groups working together. And also, I know that a lot of classes that are possible to be taken outdoors, they are being taken outdoors, also depending on the weather. Now it's winter, but still a few weeks ago, it was still possible to practice outside. So I know some students were doing the classes outdoors. But yes, university has quite a lot of freedom actually in creating its own regulation when it comes to practical classes. So, but of course the situation is surveyed all the time, and the directors are deciding whether it's all safe, and those indoor classes are of course also with the maintained hygienic and sanitary regulations about the social distancing. We don't have to wear masks inside the class. We do have to wear masks in corridors, in public spaces. Then yeah, the masks are required. But when you go into the room where the practical exercises are held, then the masks can be taken off and you can exercise without them, but again, with keeping the distance. And also the classes are cleaned in between the classes, sanitized and aired. That's we're trying to air the rooms so that there is fresh air every time the students come in. And the plan also was kind of, the plan of the classes was also kind of created so that the rotation of the students is as small as possible, so that people stay in the same groups, stay in the same rooms where possible. So we tried to create the plan, also having in mind that these regulations might be that might be quite important. I don't know if anything else, Christoph.
Yeah, thank you, Veronica. And Rita, what's happening in Klaipėda?
May I have a general question for many speakers? May I do a general question? Because
yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know. Okay, I noticed that many of you spoke about elderly or senior subjects. So my general question is, how does this population react to COVID risk in relation to physical activity? So, because I think this is a very general risk in terms of, risk of COVID, risk of infection, low contact, low relation, low physical activity. And this could be very dangerous for, especially for this population. So can you have a general comment from any of you that want to answer about the reaction of elderly, especially?
I think in Latvia, I have a good contact with the Nordic walkers and elderly generation, and I will talk with that guys, and he says always, we feel free in the forest where we go step by step from each other in maybe 2, 3, 4 meters. Take a distance for 3-4 meters, and that people feel okay, and the people don't feel okay when he goes somewhere in the city where is full of people, maybe where is maybe in some places where is in the supermarket or something like that. That will be stressful for that generation. But for people who will go somewhere in the forest, near on the beach, that I think it's then the people feel much more better and comfortable, and I think it's the nature for nowadays gives a lot of opportunities, a lot of experience for us, and it's a good way how to relax, how to recover in that way. I think it's in that it's my opinion. Maybe others have other.
Any other want to comment this point?
Yeah, I would like to comment, please.
Mm-hmm.
At our university, we have groups for elderly people working out 3 times a week, and that group's firstly been moved outdoors, and I used to lead one of those groups before, but now I do it online, but my colleagues are still, some of them, working there, doing exercises with them outdoors. And my opinion are that the elderly in Sweden are getting very isolated, and that the risk of being isolated is against the risk of getting the infection. And I think at the start of the pandemic, there were more, it felt better for them to be more restrictive with their movement around the society. But now my experience is that many of them are feeling very alone, and that's infected their psychology has negatively, and they're feeling bad. Therefore, they are more engaged in, even though we are about 8 people allowed in Sweden to gather in groups, they are more likely now to participate again. And I think that's a big question, because they're very, so it's huge risk of being home alone a lot, that the elderly people are in a greater extent, even without the COVID-19 situation, but now even more. So it's a hard question, but I think most of the Swedes elderly now want to engage if there is someone arranging something, because they feel the need of being physical active, but also be together.
Others? Okay, Juris, it's up. It's your.
Yeah, if you're talking about the elderly people, I remember I did call to Valdemaras months ago to Lithuania, and Valdemaras said that he left his business in one private company and started to organize private business with the elderly people. Valdemaras, could you say a few words about your experience? I know that you're very, very busy just now, and some pictures we can see in your presentation, but if you say a few words about your personal experience with elderly people, Valdemaras.
Okay. Augustas translate. Aš išėjau iš privataus verslo.
I left the private business.
6 mėnesiai.
6 months ago.
6 months ago, and man tai buvo iššūkis.
And it was a big challenge for me.
Ir kaip tik papuolė COVID'as.
And then COVID started in Lithuania, like it started to get really bad in here.
Iššūkis tapo dvigubas.
And the challenge became double.
Tada reikėjo galvoti, ką daryti.
And then I started to think, what could I do in this like COVID time?
Bet man padėjo žinios.
But the experience I gathered helped me.
ir 20 metų praktika.
And my 20-year practice helped me a lot. And
Aš pagalvojau, ko reikia dabar žmonėms.
I thought, what do people need right now?
Jiems reikia judesio.
And they need exercise.
Tada, kur aš tai galiu daryti?
And where can I do it?
Lietuvoje keli klubai siūlė nuomoti patalpas.
In Lithuania, a couple of clubs, gave me some ideas to rent a couple of clubs for exercising.
Kelios klinikos
and a few clinics
siūlė dirbti su jais.
Gave me some ideas to work with them.
Ne, aš pasakiau.
But I said no, and
prisimindamas Jurio health management koncepciją.
Because I remembered the Juris health management concept.
Apie kurią jis man papasakojo prieš 4 metus, 5 metus.
About which he had told me 5 years ago about.
Intuityviai bandžiau sekti toliau.
And I intuitively tried to imply these ideas to my work.
Supratau, kad man reikės partnerių.
I understood that I had to have some partners.
Klinikinių partnerių.
Clinical partners.
Čia atsirado gydytojai.
And here are some medics and experts
came for
help, blood laboratories.
Ir reikiamą įrangą darbui.
And the right equipment for work.
Tada reikėjo smulkmenos.
And then I needed a little thing.
Žmonių.
The people.
Tada pradėjau galvoti, iš kur man jų paimti.
And then I started to think, where can I get the people?
Tada prisiminiau apie pirminės rizikas.
And I remember about the primary risks.
Ir parašiau vieną žinutę į Facebooką.
And messaged someone on Facebook. One message.
Atsiliepė 2-3 žmonės.
And a few people replied.
Ir tada prasidėjo.
And then it started.
Šiuo metu turiu apie 20 žmonių.
And now I have about 20 people, active people.
Per savaitę turiu apie.
And I have about
4 individualius užsiėmimus.
About 4 individual exercises with people.
Ir apie 8, tarp 8-10 grupinių užsiėmimų.
And about 8 to 10 group exercises.
Dirbu mažomis grupėmis iki 5-6 žmonių.
And I work with groups of 5 to 6 people.
Taip yra lengviausia išlaikyti koronos keliamus reikalavimus.
Because that is the easiest way I found to control and apply the newfound COVID implementations.
Ir darbo kokybę.
And to still get the right quality of work.
Asmenys yra visi sėdinti darbą dirbantis.
All the people are people who work sedentary work.
Advokatai,
lawyers,
notarai, notars, gydytojai,
doctors and such.
Žmonės, kuriem virš 40,
people over 40,
iki 60 ir truputėlį daugiau.
To 60 and a little more.
Tame matau didžiulės perspektyvas.
I see very good
perspective
in this.
Yes, ir manau tęsiu toliau.
And I think I will continue this individual work.
Įdomiausia tai, kad finansinė išraiška.
The most interesting is that the finance of this.
Visiškai nesistengdamas to. Nesistengdamas uždirbti.
Because I don't really try to make a lot of money right now. But
geriau sekasi negu dirbant anksčiau klinikų.
But actually I make more money than before in the business.
Dirbu 4 dienas per savaitę.
I work 4 days in a week.
Ir 3 dienas ilsiuosi.
And 3 days are off.
Nepamirštu penktadienį.
And then on Fridays I
šventai pakelti raudono vyno taurę.
And I don't forget on Fridays to drink red wine.
Į visų sveikatą.
For all of your wishing all of you the best.
Tiek.
So that's all.
Thank you. And for following Federico, small talking about the ski activities, I would like to say a few words about the Latvia. Latvia is we are a small country, 2 million people, And we haven't mountains as Italia, but we have only hills. It's the highest hill in Latvia. We have 300 meters. But anyway, just now we have perhaps 7-10 open skiing sport center with the artificial snow. And many people that are just staying on the skis, different generations. Of course, elderly peoples also. Skiing is very popular here, and outdoor activities just is very, very popular. Yeah, it's additional information. Yeah.
Yeah, in the case of Italy, what's the challenge for our government is that during holidays, Christmas holidays especially, skiing is just a part of the leisure time of the people, and what the government probably want to avoid is what happened after skiing, après ski, using the French word, and this is probably what happened in Italy in summer. So they want to regulate the skiing, of course, as a sport activity, but especially they want to avoid what will probably would be possible happened in the leisure time after skiing, that is very potential dangerous. This is what we experienced after summer, very big increase of infection. I have another question about for the colleague from Sweden, from Cassandra, because if I understand well, the choice in Sweden is that sport for people under 15 is completely open, no restriction. Is correct? Also for team sport, also sport is I understand it correctly or not?
Yes, it's a little bit hard in Sweden because there are new rules and things to take in consideration almost every day now. Maybe it's that in your countries as well. But what's said now is that activities for people that are 15 years old and younger are allowed to be maintained. But organized sports like floorball or soccer for older than 15 years old, I don't think it's allowed, but 15 years old and younger. So, and that's similar to the schools. High schools are open as usual in Sweden and younger, but universities are not. So it's a difference there between 15-year-olds and older.
It's very important from a general view of the importance of sport as an education tool. The meaning is that it's very important that the younger person can maintain the possibility to do sport even if there is some possible risk. It's a very interesting view of the point, because there's also a discussion about this, how the younger generation are missing for the COVID in terms of education, of course, general education, but also sport education, because it's clear that the time of TV, time in TV or a tablet or a smartphone is tremendously increasing due to COVID.
Yes, but it's very challenging. I'm actually right now working with students that are between 12 and 15, and on their leisure time in the evenings, and we are allowed to be in a sports facility, but we are I need to make sure that they are keeping distance and that the games that we do are safe. But that's a struggle, because then when we go to our hangout area, they sit next to each other in the sofa, and I try to separate them. But in sports, we cannot. Yeah, you see the problem. They are kids and they want to interact, so it's a struggle. But I'm very happy that we can be physical active, as well as it's a challenge. So that's very positive that the kids are getting their physical activity. Yes.
I found a couple of questions probably to Gennaro in the question and answer section. Can you answer that question, Gennaro?
Sure. Someone, anonymous actually, is asking where the Daily Mile is active in Italy. And of course, I'm aware only about the schools that participated in our studies. So I have, I'm in contact with some schools in the neighborhood of Turin, but I don't have the national view. If you want to have the national view, you have to go to the Daily Mile website and check which school registered to the website. This does not mean that they are active right now. This just means that they start the Daily Mile program. Maybe they gave up, or maybe they changed their programs due to COVID. But I am only aware about the neighborhood of Turin.
And the second question was absolutely tricky. I say when and where we can try to start these ideas. So they taking very, very seriously the proposal of how to adapt 1 mile to the COVID. So do you have already try to experience the idea over the pit stop internal circle, or other idea is just at the level of ideas?
Okay, so far they are basically they are how to say guideline ideas. Because, as I said, these really depend on the places that the schools has at their availability. So far, we have a couple of schools that are interested in doing the Daily Mile this scholastic year, just because they wanted to increase the physical activity of the children's right now. But I don't have a clear idea of how they managed to do that. So I cannot provide you real feedback on how it worked in Italy, in the schools that we are in contact with. Those are just, let's say, guidelines, general guidelines. Then you have to adapt the activity so on the basis of what you have in the end.
Okay, we have another question that's very practical question from in the Q&A. Is a question from one of the students that asked if it would be possible to have a PDF presentation of the slide of the speaker. So I take the opportunity to ask to all the speakers that is present if they can send to Alina the PDF copy of the slides if they want, so we can give to the students or to the interested people, because it's a very good opportunity this webinar to have information from different countries and comparison between countries, not only related to the COVID, because in your presentation you put several information that is on general projects that was before the COVID, and we really we are sure that can continue also after the end of the coronavirus period, for sure. So please, if you can send the PDF copy to Alina, it could be very appreciated. Juris, if you don't have more questions, you think we can? Yeah, it's up to you to conclude.
Yeah, I have a question to Gennaro. Thank you for your presentation. I remember when you presented your presentation with European map, that our country, Latvia, not involved in this Daily Mile project. It's interesting, but our neighbors, Estonia, Lithuania, and others, Poland, are involved. I don't know why. I don't know why. But my question is very simple. Is it all teachers will accept this idea, Daily Mail project in physical education? How is this popular in your country, in Italy?
Okay, thank you very much. Well, actually, there are at least two different questions. So the first one, how popular he is in Italy and in maybe Eastern Europe. Actually, the popularity in those areas is not very high, I must say. Also in Italy, I don't know why actually, and this is in Italy is particularly tricky, the question, because maybe we have much more sunny days compared to UK, where the Daily Mile, for example, started, and we have much more warm days, warm temperatures compared to UK and the northern European countries. So it's particularly tricky because to answer, I believe that it depends, of course, it depends on the general population culture about physical activity and getting out and sweat and doing some fatigue and so on. So the popularity is not very high. But where the Daily Mile were tried, actually we got very good responses by teachers. As I said before, kind of 85–90% of teachers were very happy in doing the Daily Mile for our research studies. And most of them wanted to continue the Daily Mile in the subsequent years. And so this is very important for us, because this is not an additional workload for teachers. This is something that the teachers really use for them. When they see the children maybe low in attention, they take them out, they do the Daily Mile, and then they come back to the classroom. And we did a lot of surveys and questionnaires regarding how do you think the attention is after the Daily Mile? Do you think that the children are too emotional or too distracted by the activity and so on? And in the end, the teachers were mostly happy. This means that, of course, they waste, let's say, 15 minutes of teaching, but they gain in engagement and in other, let's say, relational values. Okay, and so the first barrier, of course, is what the teachers think before starting the activity. But when they are involved in the program, they typically respond quite well, and we were surprised about this, but now we see after 4 years, we see that this is a constant and general response from teachers. So this is what I can say.
Okay, thank you. But I thought that we had a question from students. It's about summer school. Okay, I will try to answer again, as I mentioned it in the beginning of our workshop, that about a little bit history about the summer school. And Osves, or summer school, we created 11 years ago, 2010, two countries, 3 universities. And idea, this summer school, to share ideas, different innovative, creative ideas in recreation, outdoor recreation subjects, I say. And usually we meet each other about 40 participants, 50% of students, and 50% of university teachers. We meet each other in many countries, in Poland, in Latvia, in Lithuania, in Spain. And this year, as you know, we had plans to meet in Verona, in Italy. Next year, I hope we will organize a summer school in Latvia. And in 2022, I hope in Verona. And then we have invitation to organize this summer school in Iran and India. It's very far, but we'll see what's happening in the future in the world. And yeah, in that way, it's my answer. And but I have one question to all the Maras. Again, sorry, that it will be third question to you. But in your presentation, you mentioned, you talk about your adults, that you help to prepare special music playlist in your clients' phones. Is it right, Valdemaras? And in which way the music list your clients to choose?
Look at me phone.
Yeah. In which way?
This is two program. Tidal and Spotify.
Yeah.
Pasakyk. Prisijungit.
You have to create an account. And then
Ir pasiemat.
I have a playlist created, and then you can choose my playlists. I have made a lot of them. You can
Pauži bet kurį.
You press on them, and
muzika užsiėmimams.
And there are a lot of songs for like your exercises. I created the playlists, and you can use them.
Bet kuris treneris, bet kuris mokytojas gali prisijungti.
Yes, what did you want to say?
Okay.
You can, Juris, you can.
Say Juris.
But which kind of music? AC/DC, for example?
No. Okay, I play for you special music. Yeah. Just a moment.
Oh, it's more romantic. Juris, it's more romantic music.
Oh, romantic music. Yeah. This is a question about the kind of music. Perhaps it's your choice as a specialist.
Okay, listen. Aiškus ritmas.
The rhythm is important.
Next. Aiškus ritmas.
Rhythm is very important.
Up. This is warm up. Yeah. And next set, pagrindinė dalis.
And the main set is
pagrindinė dalis.
No, main, yeah.
Main set and relaxed set.
And relaxed set. So the music is chosen for the set of exercise.
Užsiėmimas trunka 30-40 minučių.
And the whole exercise is about 30-40 minutes.
Ir tolygus ciklinis krūvis prieš ir po. Šiaurietiškas ėjimas, bėgimas.
Nordic walking starts with Nordic walking,
Ir po to irgi Nordic
Then
walking.
there's harder exercise, and then it ends with Nordic walking too. So it's like a cycle.
Visas užsiėmimas trunka
And the whole
1 valandą 30 minučių.
and the whole exercise with Nordic walking and with the harder exercises and Nordic walking again, that is about an hour and a half.
Su savim turiu mažą kolonėlę nešiojamą.
And with me I have a little speaker.
Ir aš ją išsitraukiu, pasijungiu per kelias sekundės.
And I like pull it out, I turn it on, and in a couple of seconds I connect to it.
Matau ateinančių nuotaikas.
I see the people's emotions when they come to the exercise, like how are they feeling that day.
Ir kol einu,
And while I walk to the destination of like where the equipment is,
nusprendžiu, kokią treniruotę jam darysiu.
I decide what kind of music I will choose and what kind of exercise we will do.
Kokią muziką jam leisiu.
What kind of music, and
Dėl to žmonėms tas labai patinka.
people really like that.
Ir jie šito saldainio nori dar ir dar ir dar.
And they want it more and more and more because it's like really interesting when the music matches your mood and it makes you.
Grojaraščių yra kiek norit.
And the playlists, there can be a lot of playlists made.
Žmonės gauna visą laiką naują ir užsiėmimą, ir muziką.
And people always get a new experience exercise-wise, and they always get new music to complement the exercise.
Ir vienintelis klausimas.
And the only question is,
kada bus sekanti treniruotė?
When the next session will be.
Aš matau, kad jau aš nebepatempiu.
And I see that like
nebegaliu.
It's hard to
pavargstu.
Do this alone because a lot of people want it, and there's more and more people coming.
O jie manęs nepaleidžia.
But the people don't let me go away, and they want more and more.
Viskas sukasi ratu.
And it all continues in a cycle.
Taip dirba.
And that's how we do it in Lithuania here.
Yeah, thank you. Mm-hmm. Federico?
Yes, I can ask if some of the speakers have a question for other speakers, so we can have some crossing question. Even if we have do a lot of work, a lot of discussion, a lot of presentation, so probably we are a little bit tired also.
And Federico, before you taking closing words, I would like to share one idea with participants. Yeah, perhaps you know this journal, Latvian Journal Sports Science, and you're very welcome to publish your ideas in Latvian Journals of Sports Science. But thank you for idea to Federico, and we have idea to publish the special issue journal, for example, managing outdoor activities during COVID period for the next year in June. And here is one example. Here is a special journal issue for sport coaches development, which we published cooperation with Pierre Trudel in Canada. And here also many publications in sport coach development, but our suggestion is to prepare for the next years this special journal for our topic. And you are very welcome to publish. I think if you agree, we send you invitation, and please send us your articles, and we can do it together. Yeah, it's our suggestion. Yeah,
that's a very great and first result of our webinar today, and I want really to thank each of you for your contribution, for the speech, for the discussion, also for the time you give to this initiative. I'm very happy of this opportunity, and also the fact that we create and we enlarge the network, and we have again, as I said in the beginning, we have a right way to react against this bad situation. So really, thanks a lot, and I want also to thank Juris that supported the idea and push for realizing this idea in a very short time. I think that if we will be able to have a special issue, it could be a very good way to let this opportunity really and more concrete, more directly impacting on the scientific work. And finally, let me thanks again Alina and Sarah for their very great job in preparing this webinar. More or less everything went well. If we not for my connection, but we'll be able to overcome also some small internet problem. And thank you again. And I think we will be able to find more opportunities in the future to maintain this nice group of researchers and to improve our activities and knowledge about outdoor activities and the importance of physical activity for the health and the well-being of the each person. Thank you very much. Juris,
thank you very much for all presenters.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and